Okay, good morning everyone. There are only 93 participants. People are logging off as we start the session. 94 has turned 93. It's already 11:10. Okay. Today's topic will be malabsorption syndromes. What are the learning objectives for this class? The learning objectives are initially we need to define malabsorption syndromes and then list various etiologies of malabsorption syndrome, and also understand the clinical features and management of various malabsorption syndromes. These are the learning objectives for this class. This is a basic physiology question in it's your first preclinical topic. That's a physiology of absorption. It's an overview. What will happen as we take the food through the mouth? Mechanical digestion, that is the chewing and swallowing, will occur in the mouth and the oropharynx. There, chemical digestion of the carbohydrates and the fats will occur. Then this food will be propelled to the esophagus, to the stomach. In the stomach, mechanical digestion, including that is the peristaltic mixing and propulsion, will happen in the stomach. Chemical digestion of the proteins and the fats will occur in the stomach. Absorption of lipid-soluble substances like alcohol and aspirin will occur. And then coming to the next part, that is the small intestine. What will happen? Mechanical digestion includes mixing and propulsion primarily by segmentation. Chemical digestion of the fats, carbohydrates, polypeptides, nucleic acids will occur over here. Absorption. So these will be converted into easily absorbable forms. So these easily absorbable forms, that's absorption of the peptides, amino acids, glucose, fructose, fats, water, minerals, and vitamins will occur over here. Then coming to the large intestine. Mechanical digestion, how does it occur? Includes segmental mixing and propulsion. There's no chemical digestion over here except by the bacterial. Bacterial will act on the undigested food. Absorption of ions, water, minerals, vitamins, and organic molecules will occur in the large intestine. What is the definition of malabsorption syndrome? Malabsorption syndrome means disorder in which there is disruption of the digestion and nutrient absorption. Means there is disturbance in the digestion of the food, and also there might be a disturbance in the absorption component. So digestion component is there, absorption component is there. There is a disorder, it's a disruption. What are the manifestations? What all can be the manifestations? Manifestations can be because of carbohydrate malabsorption or fat malabsorption or protein malabsorption. What will happen if fat malabsorption is there? If fat malabsorption is there, then you will have steatorrhea, that is bulky light colored stools will be there. First, we'll go through the manifestations column, then the lab findings and the malabsorbed nutrients. Coming to the manifestation columns, first thing is steatorrhea, that is bulky light colored stools, foul smelling stools will be there. Diarrhea, increased fecal water will be there. Weight loss and muscle wasting. Muscle wasting, your protein malabsorption will be there. So muscle wasting, protein malabsorption, so no protein content, and muscle wasting will be there. Microcytic anemia, macrocytic anemia, paresthesias, this peripheral neuropathy, this can be due to B12 deficiency also. Tetany, Trocheus sign, Chostek signs. This is because of, even in paresthesias can be because of decreased serum calcium levels. Tetany, Trocheus sign, and Chostek signs are signs of hypocalcemia. Bone pains, osteoporosis can be there. So bone pains, pathological fractures can occur, and also patients can have skeletal deformities. Bleeding tendencies. Why would they have bleeding tendencies? Like easy bruising or ecchymotic lesions can occur. You can also see in the skin. Why does these occur? This is because of vitamin K deficiency. You can have edema. Why does edema occur? You're having protein malabsorption. So decreased oncotic pressure will be there. So edema will be there. Milk intolerance, that is lactose intolerance, can be there. Patient will be having cramps, bloating, and diarrhea. So vitamin A deficiency. So patient can have night blindness can be there. Coming to the lab findings, when you're having a steatorrhea case, what are the lab findings usually find? This is the most important slide, which will depict all the things we discussed in this entire class. Increased fecal fat will be there. You're having fat malabsorption, so fat is not being absorbed, so stool content will have more of fat. Decreased serum cholesterols will be there. Decreased serum carotene, vitamin A and D levels. What are the malabsorbed nutrients in this? The triglycerides. There is decreased absorption of the triglycerides, fats, light chains, cholesterol, fat soluble vitamins. Diarrhea, that is increased fecal water will be there. Increased stool volume per weight, increased fecal fat will be there, increased stool osmolality gap will be there. What are the things which are nutrients which are malabsorbed? Fats and carbohydrates. Next comes the weight loss and the muscle wasting. What you'll see? Decreased carbohydrate and increased fecal fat. Fat, protein and carbohydrates all are malabsorbed. Microcytic anemia, you'll see low serum iron levels. What is a nutrient which is malabsorbed? That is iron. Macrocytic anemia, there will be decreased serum levels of vitamin B12 and folic acid. What are the malabsorbed nutrients? Vitamin B12 and folic acid. Paresthesia, tetany, trochocine, chastoxine. Decreased sodium, calcium and magnesium. What are the nutrients which are malabsorbed? Calcium, vitamin D and magnesium. Bone pains. You can have osteopenia will be seen on the radiograph. Calcium and vitamin D are the malabsorbed nutrients. Bleeding tendencies. What are the, if you're having a bleeding tendency, what will you see in the lab finding? That is the increased PT-INR value. What is the malabsorbed nutrients? It can be vitamin K. Edema. When there is edema, you'll have decreased serum total proteins and albumin and increased fecal loss of alpha-1 antitrypsin. This alpha-1 antitrypsin, if it's a normal absorption patient, it's a healthy absorption, you will not find this alpha-1 antitrypsin in the stool. But if there is malabsorption, then there is increased fecal loss of alpha-1 antitrypsin. There's protein malabsorption. There is lactose intolerance. That is the abnormal lactose tolerance test. What is the lactose tolerance test? You will be giving orally 50 grams of lactose. Then every hour for the next 4 hours, you'll be checking the blood sugar levels. If it doesn't increase more than 20 milligram per deciliter. It doesn't increase more than 20 gram per deciliter. That shows that it is lactose intolerance, because this lactose, when you give orally, it has to be acted upon by lactase enzyme. So it will be converted into easily absorbable form. Because of this lactase enzyme deficiency, lactose will not be because of deficiency of lactase, this lactose will not be converted, and then there will be the blood sugar levels will not increase beyond 20. What is the nutrient malabsorbed? That is lactose. What are the etiologies of the malabsorptions? It can be celiac disease, tropical sprue, Whipple's disease, small bowel overgrowth syndrome or bacterial overgrowth, short bowel syndrome. Coming to celiac disease. Before going to celiac disease, I want you to, this is a basic question. What are all the tests we can do to identify fat malabsorption? There are two, quantitative tests and qualitative tests. What are the quantitative tests? Means for 3 days, you will quantitatively measure the amount of fat in the stool. That is 72-hour stool fat test. If it is 6 grams per day, it is beyond 6 grams per day, it is pathological. In a case of steatorrhea, you'll be having 20 grams per day. And what are the qualitative tests for fat malabsorption? That is identifying the fat globules. How do you identify? Sudan 3 stain. Identifying the fat globules with the help of Sudan 3 stain. The other one is NIRA. That is near infra reflectance analysis. That means it is almost equal to the 72-hour stool fat is a gold standard test for fat malabsorption. This NIRA is also equivalent, almost equivalent to the 72 hours stool fat test. Along with fat malabsorption, we can also identify in this reflectance analysis, we can also identify the carbohydrate and protein malabsorption. And then PT-INR levels and serum levels of vitamin A after giving oral retinol, the vitamin A levels, measuring the vitamin A levels. If they don't increase, then it's a sign of fat malabsorption. What are the tests which we can do for identifying carbohydrate malabsorption? These can be glucose tolerance test. That is, and one more being D-xylose absorption test. Glucose tolerance test means you'll be doing at 0 hours, 1 hour, that is 60 minutes and 120 minutes. You will check for the serial increase in blood sugar levels. The other one is D-xylose absorption test. That is, you will be giving 25 grams of D-xylose orally, and then you will measure the xylose levels. Urine levels over the next 5 hours. So this xylose, it will be actually converted into a simple form and then absorbed in the small intestine. So if there is a problem in the small intestinal absorption, this urinary xylose levels will be very less. The other test will be lactose tolerance test, where you will be giving 50 grams of lactose. Other one being hydrogen breath test. What are all the tests you can do for protein absorption? To test for protein absorption. I'll just finish up with this. That is, you'll check the serum albumin levels. In protein malabsorption, the serum albumin levels will be low. And then 24-hour stool nitrogen can also be checked, where it will be more than 2.5 grams. And then one more is, you'll not find this alpha-1 antitrypsin, but in protein malabsorption, you'll be having this alpha-1 antitrypsin in the stool. What are all the tests for bile acid malabsorption? Here you want to give selenium labeled bile acid to the patient over 7 days. You will be giving, and then after 7 days, you will measure the bile acid content by gamma camera. Through that, but the levels will be low if there is bile acid malabsorption. That is selenium labeled homocholic acid and taurine. Vitamin B12 levels. To check for vitamin B12 malabsorption, you'll be doing Schilling's test. What are the tests you want to do for detecting bacterial overgrowth? You take a jejunal aspirate, count the amount of bacteria colony count in this. More than 10.5 is significant in this. This is the basic outline for what all tests you want to do for identification of carbohydrate malabsorption or protein absorption, fat absorption, bile acids absorption, or if there is any bacterial overgrowth. Next, coming to the syndromes. What are all the syndromes associated? This is etiology. There's a celiac disease. First, we'll deal with celiac disease. It's also called gluten enteropathy. It is an inflammatory disorder of the small bowel. Usually, there's an underlying unknown cause, but usually what is accepted is an interplay of environmental factors, genetic factors, and also immunological factors. Environmental factor means externally the food we are taking, that is gluten containing, that is wheat, rye, barley, these will be having gluten. So what is important is the gliadin component of the gluten. Against this, the inflammatory response will be seen. Genetic susceptibility means it's usually seen run in families, but the pattern of inheritance is not known. But association with HLA DQ2 and DQ8 is seen. HLA DQ2 association, it is seen in 80% of the patients of celiac disease. Around 15 to 20% patients, you will be having HLA DQ8 association. Genetic susceptibility also means first degree relatives 10%, and concordance is seen in monozygotic twins. And then immunological reaction. These enzymes are, in this disease, both innate immunity and both active and passive, both innate and inherent immunity is seen. The thing is, you can see these are all IgA can be seen. Intolerance to wheat gluten. It's most commonly seen in the Northern Europe. What is the pathophysiology of celiac disease? There is mucosal damage, immunological response. As and when patient takes the gluten, immunological response will occur and there will be mucosal damage, dysbiosis of the intestinal microbiota. That is unclear. Here in this picture, you can see the gluten peptides. Deamidation will occur and these are presented to the antigen presenting cells. Patient is having HLA susceptibility. Then the T lymphocytes will be activated and inflammatory markers will be produced, and then mucosal damage will occur. What are all the clinical features? If a patient is presenting, usually this can occur at any age, early childhood, or it can also occur in the 2nd to the 4th decade. Usually in infancy, means after weaning it will start, because only then the wheat content will be introduced. So patient, this person will be having, this infant will be having diarrhea, malabsorption, and failure to thrive. If it is in the elder children, then they'll have delayed growth, pubertal delay, and short stature will be there. In the adults, in the third and the fourth decade, usually female preponderance is more. Male is to female ratio is 1 to 1 is to 2. They'll have non-specific symptoms of various absorption, like various nutrient malabsorptions, like tiredness, weight loss, iron deficiency, folate deficiency, oral ulcerations will be there, dyspepsia, bloating, undernutrition, and osteoporosis, amenorrhea, infertility. On physical examination, what you can see: loss of muscle mass. Muscle mass will not be there. Protein and fat malabsorption will be there. So subcutaneous fat is also not proper. Pallor, anemia means you can easy bruising because of related to vitamin K deficiency. Hyperkeratosis can be there. Bone pains, osteoporosis and osteomalacia, peripheral neuropathy, ataxia can be there, hyperactive bowel sounds, dermatitis herpetiformis can be there, cutaneous variant of celiac disease. In this patient, you will be having pruritic papillovesicle over the extensor surfaces. The next one. What are all the investigations you want to do? First thing, gold standard will be the biopsy, diurnal biopsy. In this, what you will see? You will see the villus atrophy will be there, and crypt hyperplasia. Crypt hyperplasia will be there. See the crypts which are filled. And usually, this is the crypt. In this part, crypt hyperplasia will be there. And this is the villus part. Villus atrophy will be there. And also, you will see CD8 lymphocyte laden mucosal epithelial cells will be there. That is lymphocytic duodenosis. And also you'll be seeing in the upper part of the lamina propria, plasma cells, mast cells, eosinophils will be there. What are all the blood investigations, serological investigations you want to do? That is IgA, IgA endomysial antibodies, IgA antigliadin, IgG antigliadin antibodies, and then tissue transglutaminase antibodies. Anti-endomysial antibodies have 85 to 95% sensitivity and 99% specificity. The tissue transglutaminase assay, it's a semi-quantitative assay greater than 95% sensitivity and specificity. It's more accurate in patients with IgA deficiency. What are all the hematological biochemistry? This is all we have seen in the initial tabular form. You'll have when you check the CBC, you'll be having microcytic, macrocytic anemia, decreased calcium, decreased vitamin D levels, decreased serum albumin and total protein levels, decreased magnesium levels. DEXA scan, you'll have decreased bone density. You'll have osteoporosis. This entire thing is again put in the same chart. This is the tabular form for this, which we have already discussed in the initial, in the beginning of the session only we have discussed this table. What is the management of celiac disease? Lifelong gluten-free diet, frequent diet. It is seen that in patients where this diet is diet advice given and gluten-free diet taken, the inflammatory changes have, the patient has responded so well that within hours, the inflammatory and the biochemical changes have reverted back to normal. So that is the importance of patient counseling and strict adherence to gluten-free diet. Mineral and vitamin supplements, calcium and vitamin D supplementation. Follow-up. How do you follow up the patient? Based upon the symptoms, weight, nutritional status, measurement of the tissue transglutaminase or anti-endomysial antibodies. Repeat small bowel biopsies for follow-up. Glucocorticoids or immunosuppressive drugs. What is the role of this glucocorticoids or immunosuppressive drug? Most important in gliadin shock. Gliadin shock means for the first time, maybe the patient didn't know first presentation. He had taken this gluten diet. So it's almost like an anaphylactic reaction. So in that is called gliadin shock. In that gliadin shock, there comes the role of glucocorticoids. What are the complications of celiac disease? Malignancy is associated with celiac disease. That is enteropathy associated T-cell lymphoma, small bowel carcinoma, and squamous cell carcinoma of the esophagus. Ulcerative jejunal ileitis can be seen. Osteoporosis and osteomalacia. And also there'll be uh, splenic atrophy will be seen. As time progresses, splenic atrophy will be seen in these patients, and recurrent pneumococcal infections also will be seen in these patients. There are also certain patients like who are non-responsive. Means though you are strictly adhering, that is also a complication. Though you are strictly adhering to gluten-free diet, patients are non-responsive. That is non-responsive celiac disease patients. And there's also one more component like refractory celiac disease. So these are all the complications of celiac disease. The next one is tropical sprue. It's a chronic progressive malabsorption in a patient in or from the tropics. That is, patients who have living over there for years. It can present as acute or chronic also. What is the pathophysiology? There is an underlying infective agent is seen. Small bowel bacterial overgrowth with E. coli, Enterobacter, Klebsiella is frequently seen. What are the clinical features? It can present as an acute thing or a chronic thing. An acute thing, patient will be having diarrhea, abdominal distension, bloating, anorexia, fatigue, weight loss. So it's a chronic, patient will present with megaloblastic anemia. There is folate malabsorption in this patient involving the jejunal part, most common there. What is the management of tropical sprue? Tetracycline, 250 mg 4 times daily for 28 days. Folic acid supplementation is to be given in these patients. It's a prolonged treatment. Next, coming to Whipple's disease. So far, we have already discussed about celiac disease, tropical sprue, and we are left out with Whipple's disease, bacterial overgrowth, and short bowel syndrome. Whipple's disease means it's caused by Treponema whipplei. It's a rare multi-system disease. Trophema whipplei is a bacillus. It's a gram-positive bacillus. Usually, male preponderance is there, and in the 4th to the 6th decade. What is the pathophysiology? Initially, you're having infection with Trophema whipplei. Then it will reside in the macrophages in the bowel mucosa. Villi are widened and flattened, obstruct. So what will happen? This bacilli-laden macrophages, they will obstruct the lymphatics in the lamina propria. They will block the lymphatics in the lamina propria and thus cause fat malabsorption. What are the clinical features? It's a rare multi-system disorder, but still there is CNS involvement is seen and cardiac involvement is also seen in these patients. What are the clinical features? Means arthralgias, diarrhea is there, abdominal pain, bloating, weight loss, low-grade fever, lymphadenopathy, edema, CNS involvement. It can be present as dementia. Patient can have, some of the patients may present with supranuclear ophthalmoplegia, nystagmus, myoclonus. Cardiac involvement. Pericarditis it can cause pericarditis and also culture negative endocarditis. How do you diagnose? Small bowel biopsy. Anyway, biopsy is a gold standard. You have seen in celiac disease also, the diurnal biopsy is the gold standard. Even here, demonstration of the bacillus by polymerase chain reaction. And then the most important characteristic feature is PAS positive, that is per iodic acid skip reagent stain positive. Infiltration of the small intestinal mucosa by foamy macrophages, which stain the positive with per iodic acid skips reagent. Antibiotic therapy. If you don't treat this patient, it is fatal. If it is left untreated, it is fatal. Antibiotic therapy. What you want to give? Initially, we'll be giving IV ceftriaxone 2 grams daily for 2 weeks, followed by cotrimoxazole double strength. Give BD dose for at least a year. If it is untreated, it is fatal. Next, coming to small bowel overgrowth syndrome or bacterial overgrowth. What are the causes of bacterial overgrowth? Gastric achlorhydria. That is from long term, years together, you're using PPI. So gastric achlorhydria will promote bacterial growth. Anatomical abnormalities of the small intestine with stagnation, means somewhere you have resected or stricture has formed. So the structure is not allowing the food through proper food. So some amount of stagnation will be there. So anatomical abnormalities of the small intestine with stagnation. Small intestine motility disorders because of vagotomy or scleroderma or diabetic enteropathy. Diabetic enteropathy is the most common. Gastrocolic or coloenteric fistula, Crohn's disease, malignancy, surgical resections, and in elderly patients. These are all the causes of bacterial overgrowth. In bacterial overgrowth, what is the mechanism of malabsorption? Bacterial disconjugation of the bile salts. So inadequate micelle formation. If the micelle is inadequately formed, what will happen? Fat absorption will be, there'll be a problem with the fat absorption. Microbial uptake of specific nutrients means this bacteria also will take some of the nutrients. It's like competing in the body for the nutrients. Direct damage to the breast border. Bile acid diarrhea. This bile acid reabsorption will not be there. So bile acid diarrhea, there is osmotic diarrhea will be there. The same tabular form. One second. Yeah, for investigations, what are all the manifestations, or what are the lab findings of the malabsorbed nutrients? This tabular form is common for all. What is the management? How do you diagnose? Aspirate and culture of the proximal jejunal secretions greater than 10 power 5 organisms per ml. Breath hydrogen test. Imaging, you will find any structural abnormalities in the intestines. Empirical antibiotic trial can be given. Anatomical defect. If there is an anatomical defect, correct it. Broad spectrum antibiotics like ciprofloxacin 500 mg or norfloxacin 400 mg. Amoxiclav 875 mg. Metronidazole plus trimethoprim or sulfamethoxazole. Rifaximin 400 mg. Long-term antibiotic therapy is required. Next, coming to the short bowel syndrome. Why does short bowel syndrome occur? There'll be, there is some surgery is done. Secondary to removal of the significant segments of the small intestine. Small intestine part is very important for nutrient absorption. So you are removing this some part of the small intestine. So short bowel syndrome will occur. What will happen this part? It is removed. So during the transit, that part of the time which is taken for transit is also cut off. Crohn's disease or mesenteric infarction is there, or radiation enteritis, volvulus, tumor. These are all, there's a chance for resection. Degree of malabsorption depends upon the length and site of the resection. Like as we know, small intestine, there are a majority of the nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine. So the site of resection, the part which is resected, and the length of the intestine which is resected, based upon this, the degree of malabsorption depends upon this. Intestinal failure. Consequences of, what are the consequences of ileal resection? What will happen? We'll start with the, in this picture, we'll start with the gallbladder. See the gallbladder. Decreased bile salt pool. So lithogenic bile leading to gallstones. Impaired, you see in the small intestine, impaired micelle formation and fat malabsorption. Then coming to the terminal ileum part, impaired bile absorption, like bile salts are not reabsorbed. So what will happen? Bile salts will remain in the stool. And so it will cause watery, that is osmotic diarrhea will occur because of bile salts being remaining in the stool. Then in the terminal part of ileum, what is the most important? B12 malabsorption. If that part is resected, B12 malabsorption will happen. And then in the colon, increased absorption of oxalate is there. Oxalate stones will be formed. If it's a terminal ileal resection, bile salts, vitamin B12 malabsorption will be there. So vitamin B12 deficiency will occur, and because of bile salts, osmotic diarrhea, bile diarrhea will occur. If it is extensive small bowel resection, not only ileum, extensive small bowel resection. So small bowel is important for absorption of all the nutrients. So nutrients, water, electrolytes, all malabsorption will occur. So as a result, patient will have weight loss, diarrhea. If it's terminal ileal resection, what is you want to see? Bile salt binding resin, so that you want to give the bile salt binding resin so that they will hold back the bile acids again. Cholestyramine 2 to 4 grams TID. Cholecalciferol 2 625 mg 1 to 3 tabs BD. Anti-diarrheal agents. In extensive small bowel resection, most important thing you will have is diarrhea, mainly diarrhea. Anti-diarrheal agents, you want to give loperamide 2 to 4 mg TID, and also you want to give octreotide. What is the treatment? There is excessive malabsorption of majority of the nutrients, and also water. There will be dehydration will be there in this patient. You have to provide nutrition, water, and electrolytes to maintain health with normal body weight. To utilize the enteral or oral routes as much as possible. To minimize the burden of complications of the underlying disease as well as the intestinal failure and its treatment. Allow a good quality of life. This is the motto for treatment of short bowel syndrome. And the manifestations, lab findings, and malabsorption nutrients being the same, tabular form. What are the other etiologies for malabsorption? You can have A beta lipoproteinemia. So what is the treatment? Low fat diet has to be supplemented with medium chain triglycerides and vitamins A, D, E, K. Next we'll come to the summary. What is your take home message? Take home message means what you need to know. The definition of malabsorption. What are all the etiologies of malabsorption? What are all the syndromes? That is celiac disease, tropical stool, Whipple's, and then also bacterial overgrowth and short bowel syndrome. You need to know a gist of all these. And then what are all the tests to diagnose malabsorption? That is, test to diagnose carbohydrate malabsorption, test to diagnose fat malabsorption, test to diagnose protein malabsorption, test to diagnose bile acid malabsorption, bile malabsorption, and test to diagnose if there is any bacterial overgrowth. An overview of all these tests is important. Coming to carbohydrate malabsorption, you have glucose tolerance test. You have this D-xylose test where you'll measure the urinary xylose levels. You'll have the lactose tolerance test, hydrogen breath test. These are all the tests for carbohydrate malabsorption. What is the test to identify for fat malabsorption? You have the gold standard being the 72-hour fat stool fat. That is the quantitative test. Qualitative test being the Sudan 3 staining of fat globules, or the near infra reflectance analysis where you can check for the malabsorption of all carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And also coming to the protein malabsorption. And also check for the PT-INR levels in the fat malabsorption, and also the serum vitamin A levels. And then check for, coming to the protein malabsorption, your serum albumin and total protein levels will be low, and your urinary nitrogen excretion content. And also coming to the other things, like bile acid malabsorption, you want to check for the you'll be giving selenium labeled bile acids for orally, and then you'll be checking for under the gamma X-ray of the body to check for the bile acid levels after 7 days. Vitamin B12 deficiency through Schilling's test, bacterial overgrowth. You want to take the jejunal aspirate and go for the bacterial counts. Those are all the tests for malabsorption. This tabular form is important. The entire class, this tabular form is the most important one. What are all the manifestations? What are all the lab findings? And what all probably could be the malabsorbed nutrients? This tabular form will summarize your entire malabsorption. Okay, this ends the session for today. Any doubts you can post in the chat box. One second, participants. One second. Where is the chat box? One second, I can't find the chat box over here. Any questions can be posted in the chat box. I know this is a little bit boring topic, but still, that's an essay question for you. Where do I need to see raised hand and ochindi? 1 second. Someone raised hand. Yeah, someone raised hand, but I'm not able to find it out. Can you post your doubt in the chat box? Participants. Can you post your question in the chat box? Someone has raised their hand. I'm not able to approach you. Can you post it in the chat box? Or else, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Right now, I'm not able to find who has raised their hand. Okay. Then I think I didn't get any questions, so that's the end of the session. If any doubt, please contact me over my phone. The person who has raised their question, I don't see anything posted over here in chat box also. So the person can directly contact me over my mobile number. Probably I think you'll be having it. Okay then, that's the end of the session. Thank you.